Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 48 for May 5th, 2017. Howdy folks, Danny Rubino here, executive editor of Windows Central, joined by Zach Bowden, our senior editor for Windows 10, and welcome to the Microsoft and Windows 10 podcast, where we're going to discuss all things Microsoft, including the latest news, reviews, and things that are happening in that world. Thank you for joining us on this episode, this pre-Build 2017 episode, I should say. So if you're not familiar with Build, it is the annual developer conference that Microsoft hosts, and Zach and I are in the middle of packing up and getting ready to go there. Zach's coming all the way from the UK, first time to the US for an extra long flight. I'm coming from Boston, but that starts next week, and we'll, of course, be having live coverage throughout the week for that. Zach, how are you doing this fine Friday?
I am not too bad. How are you?
Hanging in there, definitely a busy week. We're going to start off this podcast talking about, of course, the announcements that happened in New York City. That would be Windows 10S, formerly known as Windows 10 Cloud. We'll also talk about the Surface laptop. We'll also talk about this recent announcement about the new event in China that Microsoft has on May 23rd. And then finally, we're going to wrap up by our predictions for Build 2017 and talk about what we expect there. So far, it's been pretty quiet for Build, so that's going to be kind of an interesting discussion. Although, I'm starting to hear a little bit of rumblings, which we'll get to in a bit. But let's talk about Windows 10S. Zach, you were doing a lot of stuff here with Windows 10 Cloud for a while. Why don't you tell us what the deal is with this, and I'll show you my thoughts about it after.
So Microsoft had an event this week where they announced a bunch of things. One of them was Windows 10S, which was, for those following along, Windows 10 Cloud. That was its code name for all this throughout development, Windows 10 Cloud. Officially announced as Windows 10S, it's a version of Windows 10 that's locked to the Windows Store, meaning you can't download programs from outside the store and install them. They just simply won't run. Everything has to come through the Windows Store if it wants to run on a Windows 10 Cloud install. That includes Win32 programs. So unlike Windows RT, which is what many people are comparing this to, this version of Windows 10 can run Win32 programs as long as they are available in the Windows Store, such as Slack, Evernote, Tweeten, you name it. If it's in the Windows Store, it will run on Windows 10S, much like any other normal version of Windows 10. The only difference is, again, like I say, it's locked to the Windows Store. So if you download Google Chrome, for example, from outside of the Windows Store via the Edge browser, trying to launch that installable will not work. It just says, sorry, this is a version of Windows 10 that's locked to the store. It's not going to happen. And it does this for two reasons. One, security, and two, it's for schools. Windows 10S Microsoft says stands for whatever you want it to stand for: security, schools, simplicity, whatever. But from what Microsoft were demoing on Tuesday, it's definitely Windows 10 for schools in the sense that it's locked down, it's secure, it's safe. You're not going to get any, rascals in school trying to download these silly programs and trying to hack systems and whatnot.
And it's also the speed play, right?
Right.
Because what happens is people install a lot of applications on their PC. And it goes into that taskbar, right? I hate this startup where apps then, run in the background. And when this happens at schools or on any PC, all of a sudden the PC starts to slow down from all these tasks and things running. Now, Windows Store apps can't do that, so there's no issue there. So they focused a lot here on both the resume time, the time it took to log in and load a user's profile, as well as battery life. And there's other thing that he did too, which is standby battery life. So when you close that lid on whatever device you're using, you come back like a week later, there's still battery there. Now, I've noticed this in the recent updates. This affects all Windows 10 PCs. I actually did turn my Surface Book on after 4 days of not using it, and it was still 100% battery. That's never happened in the history of a Surface device. So all this stuff they did to S is really carried over for all Windows 10.
Oh, absolutely. And they did a good demo on stage as well, where they had two systems that log into network accounts, I believe. One running Windows 10 Pro, one running Windows 10S. And the Windows 10S setup logged in. The first time login experience was 15 seconds compared to the first time logging experience on the Windows 10 Pro install, which was about a minute. Now, most of people listening to this probably wouldn't have ever experienced this. But if you are ever logging into a networked account on a Windows install for the first time, it does that preparing Windows thing. And it does take a little while, but on Windows 10S, apparently they've managed to make that only 15 seconds, which is incredible, it's super fast compared to the old system. Now, again, like I said, a lot of people were comparing this to Windows RT in the sense that, it's a version of Windows that's locked to the Windows Store. Sure, if you want to look at it like that, then yes. But Windows 10s can be upgraded to Windows 10 Pro. Though Windows RT couldn't do this. So if you buy a Windows 10s machine, you can, if you really need to or want to, boot up that machine, set up all your account details and whatnot, then go to this Windows Store and then buy a Windows 10 Pro license. Now, Microsoft are actually offering this as a discount if you're a normal consumer. If you buy a Windows 10s machine, you can actually upgrade to Windows 10 Pro for $49, which is way cheaper than the usual $99 they would charge you for a full-on Windows 10 Home to Windows 10 Pro upgrade. If you're a student, the upgrade is free, and if you buy, some devices will have a deal with Microsoft where the actual upgrade will be free. Microsoft's own Surface laptop, which we'll be talking about in a minute, is also one of those devices. So if you buy a Surface laptop, all the way from when it goes on sale to the end of the year, you can actually upgrade Windows 10s to Windows 10 Pro for free, and then you have that Windows 10 Pro license forever, where you can just clean install Windows 10 Pro.
But we should also mention that for schools, there is no fee. That's
yes,
all
I did
10s
say that.
machine. Okay, yeah, all 10s machines are upgradable to Pro. Now, I also want to make this clear because I don't think a lot of people understand. When we say upgrade to Pro, there's actually no real upgrade, right? It's a license thing because Windows 10s is Windows 10 Pro. It just has like a layer in it that basically prevents you from installing executable files. It's sort of like I don't know, like a little wall. But when you go to the store and unlock that license, it doesn't need to, I don't believe doesn't need to reboot, and it doesn't install anything for sure. There's actually no download or upgrade, right?
I haven't tried it yet. I would believe that there is a reboot required, but that's just because it's Windows. I will double check, right, and next week I'll let you know. Yeah, I don't think it should. That would be interesting if it does. Yeah, I will definitely check and get back to you on that. But yeah.
So someone else also asked this question. Is there a chance that Windows RT devices will get an update to Windows 10s? I would say no, and that's because a lot of the RT devices were actually ARM processors. That was the other reason why they weren't very good. They were pretty slow. The difference here is these are full-on x86, x64 processors, also known as just any Intel Core or Intel M processor or Y series processor that's available in the market today. So that's another key difference here. Those used to be sort of low-powered ARM tablets. And it's ironic because ARM is returning later this year, but it's a much different beast this time. Now ARM's going to run. So this is actually kind of funny. We've taken basically a form of Windows RT, put it on x86 processors, and we took a form of Windows 10 Pro and put it on ARM processors, and it can go either direction, right? So the one can unlock to Pro, and I guarantee you the Pro one could go down to S, or there will be devices that are S. So this is what we keep harping on here, that all this talk and all these divisions are becoming really non-existent. That's why this discussion of Windows 10 Mobile is going to get real interesting, I think, in the next year or two, because there's not going to be really a separate mobile SKU. There's just going to be Windows 10 on a mobile device.
Right, and that question, that Windows RT running Windows 10s question, is a good one. I mean, it makes sense, right? Later this year, when Windows 10 on ARM does show up, Windows 10, I'm pretty sure there will be Windows 10 devices that are powered by ARM chips. But right. Microsoft, there's a difference between the old Windows, the old Surface RT devices and the newer ARM devices, being that the old Surface devices were ARM32, whereas Microsoft's new ARM effort is ARM64. They're entirely different architectures. Yeah. So it's like trying to run a 64-bit version of Windows on a 32-bit machine. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. So although Microsoft does internally sometimes compile ARM32 builds of Windows 10, there's absolutely no reason why they should release it to the public. There are so little users. Small market. Yeah, and everybody basically uses their Surface either as like a doorstop or like a virtual photo frame at this point, or don't even use them anymore, which is probably what most people now not use. I did a thing with my Surface 2. I was trying to use it as a main sort of thing. I did a write-up, it's coming next week now, where I used the Surface 2 as my sort of main laptop for a week. Surprisingly, still doable, thanks to Office 2013, which comes bundled with Windows RT. I'm honestly surprised that Office doesn't come bundled with Windows 10s. That would have been nice. Although it is pinned to the start menu by default, which is very interesting. So it does look like they're going to have a big... Windows 10s will push quite heavily on the Office 365 sort of deal, which makes sense. It is a version of Windows aimed at students, schools, you name it. But yeah, that's Windows 10s. Pretty exciting. I know there's a lot of people who aren't really, who are a bit, annoyed about Windows 10s.
I was going to say, so I wrote an article about some of the messaging, and it was a little off, but I think Windows 10s is the future of Windows. I mean, so Well, this is going to lead us into the Surface laptop discussion, of course. So the whole lead up to this was talking about devices that cost $189 and up, two, 300 for schools. Basically, these are low end devices. They're rarely going to be offered direct to consumers. I'm sure there may be a few, but this is mostly an education play. In fact, the devices I saw from HP and Dell all had like education edition it was actually like EE education edition in their titles. So most of these are going to be sold in bulk to schools. And that's fine, right? That's where it takes on Chromebooks. And Microsoft's already been in schools for a long time. They're actually more dominant in Europe than the United States, where Google is sort of a big threat with Chrome. So that was the big play, and it makes a lot of sense. There's also the Intune for education, which was announced in January, and that's getting ready to roll out now. And that's actually really huge. When I talk to IT people, they're really excited about that. It's a very easy management system for these devices. But Microsoft spent time showing how you can basically put this edition of Windows 10 S onto a thumb drive, and you can then go through each laptop and configure them. And like one school did 600 laptops in one day using just 30 thumb drives. So this is stuff that IT departments really want to hear about. You can go through and you can disable things like the camera and certain apps and all of these kind of things. And it's super important. Schools, I believe, can upgrade to Pro, install an application, and then lock it back down to S. So this gives IT departments that freedom where, if that app isn't in the store right now, they can kind of work around it. And that's really cool. Now, I wrote about how Windows 10 S is kind of the future of Windows in a sense that someday Microsoft wants you just to use the store for all your applications. And how they're going to do that, one way is Project Centennial, is where companies take their apps, put them into the store using Win32 converters. Long term, those companies will hopefully then rewrite that app as a native UWP when it's powerful and strong enough. And I'm already there kind of for myself. I know when I obviously get a lot of laptops, the majority of my apps come through the store now. I use Adobe Elements for photo editing. So that's Project Centennial in the store. I use Slack, which was that's an Electron app, also done through Centennial, put into the store. Although we're gearing up to switch to Teams finally, so that's pretty awesome. And so almost all my applications come through the store. Same with a lot of my games I use. Now, I do have a Steam account, but I actually find Steam a real pain to use on a new laptop. It's just a lot of you got to install this thing and all this. But the idea here is in 6 to 12 months, you're going to see this influx of applications hopefully coming to the store. And for consumers, they won't have to go and download executable files. And that is really, it's funny because the same thing that everybody loves Windows for. It's like, oh, I can just install any application I want. I can just click on an executable and that same paradigm is the same paradigm that causes people to hate Windows. And that's something Microsoft has to rectify because, yeah, you can install any executable file and also get a virus. You can install bat files, get viruses. You can maybe be downloading an old version of the application. You may have to now install something that runs in the background so it can ping home every once in a while to check if there's an update, which is really inefficient. One application, fine. You got 5 doing that. All of a sudden now your battery life slows down. The computer slows down. You have all these issues. So it's funny. The same thing that everybody loves Windows for is the same thing everybody hates Windows for. And that's what Microsoft's trying to fix here. And so I think that's where the Windows 10 S play comes into. At some point, you got to sort of put this onto the market. And Microsoft said, we believe in this so much, we're going to put it on our device, our hero device. This is the Surface laptop. And when they put Windows 10 on it, Windows 10 S. And I think that was pretty smart of them because it would be weird if they spent 90 minutes going, Windows 10 S is all this. It's secure, it's fast, it's this and that. And here's our new device. Does it run Windows 10 S? Oh, no, we would never use that on our device. So they put it on there. And for those people, especially in our audience, who are like, oh, God, I need to install this application from 1998. Well, then you can just go unlock it and now you have Pro. And so I feel like Microsoft is getting the best of both worlds here. I feel like people complaining that there's an extra hoop that you have to upgrade, I think it's ridiculous. When I turn on an Android phone for the first time, if you've never tried this, log into your Google account and then just sit there for 15 minutes agreeing to all the notifications and permissions. and tell me that that is somehow a better experience than just simply going to the store and going, yes, give me Pro. Okay, $0, cool. All right, I'll reboot. Okay, now I can install my files. So I don't really see this as a bad thing at all.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely. Although there are some minor limitations with the Windows 10 S SKU. One being that you can't set a browser as default. The only browser that is set as default is Edge, and that's locked in on Windows 10 S, which currently isn't really a problem since there aren't any other browsers in the Windows Store that are worth downloading. But if Google, for example, decided to put their browser in the store one day, you wouldn't be able to set that as default on Windows 10 S, which I don't see that as a bad thing. Apple gets away with it on iOS. I don't see why. A lot of people have been saying a lot of things about Windows 10 and Microsoft recently about how Microsoft are now finally catching up with the competition and doing or implementing the same practices that other platforms have been doing for quite a while now. But at the same time, a lot of people are saying that Windows can't do this because it's Windows, and Windows has a different set of expectations. Although I agree, maybe it's time to break those expectations. I don't see why we have to always hold Windows to that. Oh, it's open. It can, you should be allowed to manipulate any part of the OS and change whatever you want. Why should Microsoft have to live in that world still? I don't see why.
Well, these are what I call the 10 percenters.
Yeah.
And they're the loudest, right? There are people who listen to our podcast, no offense. There are people who leave comments on our site, and mind you, the first people to leave comments on this site. And that's fine. I mean, and so long as Microsoft doesn't completely lock out those people. That's what I love about the Surface Laptop or Windows 10 S Play. It's like, okay, yeah, it's limited. But if you don't like it, it's literally a click and boom, problem solved. Like what's the issue there? Let them do this kind of thing,
No, I agree entirely. So like I said, yeah, Windows 10 S, I'm pretty excited for it. I was using it on like a Surface 3 for like a month, and I had no issues with it. It makes lower end devices run better because that Win32 crap that you would usually install from the back end from the web can't be installed, so it limits you and makes you think about what apps you need really, and then it makes you run less.
And for the record, when I do review the Surface Laptop, I will be keeping it as an S machine. Like I said, I actually do live in that Windows Store ecosystem. I actually really don't have any problem doing that. Another complaint I want to bring up is that people say, like, why would developers put their applications in the store? Because now Microsoft's taking a cut. And that argument makes sense kind of now in the sense where, like, there's not a swell of migration of apps and users right now. I mean, there's like 400 million, right? But that number needs to get bigger. So this is simple math, though. If you sell 1,000 licenses for $5, or you can sell 10,000 licenses for $3, that's simple math. The 10,000 in volume at $3 will yield you more money in the long term, even if you're charging more for the 1,000. And that's what people don't realize. It's like, what applications you want to install in your computer. Like, you get it, like, okay, I gotta go get this. There's this like weird application that came out in 2004 that I still use to rip DVDs. You know where to get it. That's good. You know that. Congratulations. But that is poor for developers, because that is the worst discovery system in the world, which is you have to rely on search engines and people going, what's the best, app for doing this, recording audio, So now you have to go through that. You got to go through someone else's website. You got to do a payment through some other payment methods. You don't know what you're getting. Sometimes there's shareware. How many of us are tired of those stupid download sites? My God, those things, I still cringe when I need to download. Like, for a long time for me, it was Crystal Diskmark. I used to have to download that for doing benchmarks. That now is Centennial. It's in the store. It's awesome. I used to have to go through these weird Japanese sites and just go to these weird file hosting sites to download it. And it was just like, what am I getting into? You'd click a button and like, oh, that was an ad. Sorry, that wasn't actually the download link. This stuff is a nightmare, folks. And if you defend it, I'm sorry, you're wrong. That is like the most wrong model I've ever seen for an app system. And the idea that now that could be in the store where Microsoft can promote your app. You can search by keywords. You can read user reviews of how good it is. You get automatic updates so that you just launch the store and it's like, oh yeah, here's an update, boom, there it is. All this is beneficial for developers too, who get more exposure, better customer service, better relations with their customers. They can offer in-app purchases now, a unified payment system, and they can span it across Xbox, Windows, mobile someday again, holographic, all these systems. So I mean, there's a huge benefit here for everyone. And I cannot justify that old system of like, just go to some janky website. Hopefully you'll download some executable from a file hosting site and it's the right one and it's new and good luck. No, that's wrong. Sorry.
I mean, we've said this many times on the podcast now. If there's a program that we used to download from the web that's now in the store, me and Dan, we get it from the store. Slack's a perfect example. Me and Dan have Slack on every Windows 10 machine we have because it's how we communicate for work. And I don't know about you, Dan, but every single machine I have now, I download it through the Windows Store because it's just so much more simple. It's one click and it's there and it's installed and it's ready to go. It really is just so much more simple. And that's us who are, relatively technology. Yeah, exactly. But for normal people where that's a whole other thing. Like, technology is so far distance from them the way they don't really understand it. That's so big. That's such a better user experience compared to, as Dan says, going on the internet and, it's terrible.
Did you just see we just had graffiti come down on our Beam channel?
What, really? What for?
I don't know. We had a new subscription. Thank you.
He's been subscribed for a month. Nice.
Paladin Meats. Thank
awesome.
you. And like I loathe when apps run on my startup folder and they run on that taskbar. I hate it. It drives me nuts. Now, one thing that's really cool about the UWP system is take Lenovo. Lenovo's had a really bad record of, shoddy software, security issues, and all these kind of things. We're all familiar with it. And it's changed a lot. When you get a new Lenovo machine, take for instance, Lenovo used to always have their update and system for managing their Lenovo machines. It was a Win32 application, ran in your taskbar, and it would do this weird update. It would check for new drivers and all this, which is cool. It's what you wanted. The thing was not easy to use, and it was ugly. That's a UWP app now. It's called Lenovo Companion. And you can just go to the store. There's also Lenovo Settings. These are UWP apps. They download to the store. They just run as single applications. They're siloed. They don't run the background. You click a button, checks for drivers. Lenovo's UWP apps are so good. I love them. They're like, and that's what Microsoft wants. It's like, yes, do that, instead. And the other end of this is a lot of people talk about, well, what about drivers? And if you haven't noticed, get a Windows PC, anyone, and just start it up raw, right? Reflash the whole thing, put Windows 10 on there. I guarantee you almost all the drivers will be installed because a lot of them now come through Windows Update. Now, there is this argument that, like, say, NVIDIA always has slightly newer drivers out there, and that's technically true. For your average consumer, I don't think it matters. They will get it eventually once they get approved and all this. That system, though, can be improved. It is improving, but that's how that model is going to work. You get your drivers through Windows Update, which is how it should work.
Yeah, I love it. Everything should be automatic, and basically Windows Update and the Windows Store is that basically. Now, what happens is on a first party device like the Surface Book and the Surface Pro 4. Now, when you install the Creators Update clean, most of the drivers are already there without even needing to use Windows Update. Windows Update would just update the drivers that come in house now, which is very nice. And obviously, the Windows Store handles apps for you. But on third party devices, even if the drivers aren't, pre-installed via Windows' own in-house drivers, Windows Update usually handles most of them pretty well, and it's so simple now. Before, when I would install Windows back in Windows XP days, I'd have to go beforehand, find all the drivers, have them on a USB.
Have to have a CD?
Right? Oh, it's CDs even. Yeah, exactly. And now it's just I install Windows clean. Don't have to worry about drivers. I just click check for updates. And then Windows Update says, okay, I found all of these drivers. Sure, they may not be the latest drivers, as Dan says, but if they work, they work. And I generally don't care if they're the latest or not, which is really nice. Also, someone has told me that there is a reboot required for the upgrade from S to Pro, which is fine.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it takes long if it's just a quick reboot. But yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think this isn't like... I've done the Home to Pro upgrade before, and it's just it reboots and... does a quick thing, but it's not like you're going to wait 30 minutes. It's installing file.
Right,
it's not like that. It's literally the same OS for all intents and purposes. But I mean, and now for all the complaints about the store as is today, which are legit, but that's, this is still early days for this stuff, but this is the model where it's heading. And so let's talk now Surface Laptop. So I have I love the Surface Laptop, and I've been kind of critical of it a little bit this week, only because it's weird. Microsoft got on stage And look, this unfortunately leaked the night before, which is real unfortunate. I hate leaks the night before. It's like, really, I get if you can leak me something 6 months early, okay, that's a scoop. Leak something for me 3 months early, that's a pretty big scoop. You're going to leak it the night before? Come on, why bother?
I just want to make a comment on the whole leak thing. It's Microsoft's fault. The leak.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Microsoft uses some terrible system. Yeah, it came from their store website. So
okay, so fair enough for that. But so let's talk about this. So Surface Laptop, they got on stage, they announced this, and this was the weird critical part I had with the transition, because they spent the whole thing talking about K through 12 and $200 laptops, which they did not focus enough on. They mentioned it, they didn't really show any, and then all of a sudden they start talking about college kids, MacBook Airs, and $1,000 laptops. And I get that, and for those who are not in the U.S. in our audience, I can assure you, go to a U.S. college campus someday. Make sure you look like you're supposed to be there. But the college kids, Apple products are huge on college campuses. And for those who think, college kids can't afford it, everything's financed these days. When kids go to college, you throw down a lot of money, you finance these things. Everybody gets their Mac or MacBook Air, is $2,000 laptop. It's going to last them their 4 years. It's true. All that is accurate. And Microsoft needs a competitor to that, I guess. You would have thought Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book were in that device, but they're answering this thing that a lot of people have always talked about, namely people in media, I think, who said they just want a laptop. And when I talked to Ralph Grain, who's their head designer of all their Surface products, I was like, why did you guys make this? And also, how long have you been making it for? So if you haven't seen the video, when I talk about this, it took them 2 years to make this thing, which is really interesting. Plus, there was a few months before that where they just discussed it. But it was 2 years in the making. And they made it not because it's not defining a new category, or rather creating a new category. And that's what we understood Surface to be up to this point. This for them was about completing an experience, completing a family of devices. That's good and bad, I think. It's good for people who someday maybe want a mobile phone device because they obviously see creating any kind of PC device now as doable. It doesn't even have to be category creation. It's also bad, I would say, for their OEM partners who are like, WTF, why are you guys making a laptop? Like, if there was one area you could say their partners have been really doing well in, like HP, Dell, Lenovo, Razer, Acer, has been making excellent laptops. And they're coming in now and saying, well, we're going to make one too. And it's an impressive laptop, right? It's 13.5 inches, thinnest LCD display for a laptop on the market. It is touch. It uses a pen, although this screen doesn't articulate back. It has the Alcantara keyboard, which I'm using right now with my Ergo Surface keyboard. Really nice material. It's a beautiful device. I want one. I'll use it. It's something I can use for my job. I just think it's weird that they made it, though. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm entirely happy that they've made it. This is what I've been asking for. If you listen back on previous podcasts, I've mentioned many times, I love the Surface Book. The Surface Book is great. I don't use the tablet mode nearly as much to warrant me spending as much money as I did on it for all of its uses. Also, I don't like how thick it is when it's closed because of the weird hinge, which again I like the hinge itself. I like it when it's open. The device looks really amazing. But when it's closed, it's a little bit thicker than most other laptops of the same spec range. So this Surface laptop solves both of those problems that I really have. I use the Surface Book as a laptop. If the Surface Book didn't detach and had that stupid hinge removed, I would want it. And this is basically what that Surface laptop is. It comes with a Core i5 or Core i7, whatever you want. 4 gigs. The lowest end model of the Surface laptop is a little bit questionable. It's 4 gigs of RAM, Intel Core i5, 128
Which
gigs.
Is the same. I mean, in fairness, it is the same specs as a Surface Pro 4 and costs literally $25 more than the Surface Pro 4 with the keyboard edition.
Right, but you've got to keep in mind the Surface Pro 4. Oh, is that the Surface Pro 4 with the keyboard? Or without?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay, right.
Yeah,
you do keep in mind as well, the laptop does come with the Kaby Lake CPU, which is probably the $25 more that you're paying for. Also,
right.
The laptop does have a slightly lower resolution screen, which I don't know. You've seen the device, I haven't. Is the screen noticeably lower resolution than say?
No, the screen looks better all the way around. When I use my Surface Book, I love the Surface Book, but there's always been this issue with the light bleed coming through. It's just been a thing that's been dogging the Surface line forever. And at least in my initial look at these devices, I didn't see it because they're so thin and the way they obviously the benefit here of getting a newer Surface device with display is they've reworked all the technologies around it. So the display to my initial handling looked better. The resolution thing, I don't think anyone will really notice, but it looked like a really nice display.
That's fair. I mean, the other thing that people are questioning, apart from the fact that it's only a laptop and Surface was usually a device line that reinvented and recategorized things, is no USB-C. And Microsoft appears to be sort of shying away from USB-C for now, probably because it's still not really mainstream, which I totally understand. I know a lot of people are very upset at Microsoft shunning USB-C for now, but honest to God, remember, this device is aimed at students and, young professionals. I honestly, in an educational environment, I haven't ever seen USB-C type devices. That's probably because I haven't been to an educational environment in quite a while, but that's not the point. People who I know who still attend schools, for example, don't, they still use USB sticks or USB hard drives, or USB mics or USB peripherals. They don't use USB-C things yet.
And I'm on board with that. Except if you make it USB Type A or Type C, Type A is the way to go. What I don't get is why a mini display port? Why not give you USB Type A and Type C, and let's just ditch the mini display port?
I think we mentioned this on our Beam stream yesterday. It could have been due to space internally. They might have been fighting for space, and the display port module might have been slightly smaller than the USB-C module. We don't know, really. Did you ask them at the event why?
I didn't ask him. I asked him as a the either or kind of question. I didn't ask why instead of
should have been like, why?
Display port. I know, but don't forget, Microsoft didn't talk about specs on stage. They mentioned the processor and that was it. Everything else was up to discovery for us on the floor. And when I was talking to the Surface team about it. So it was one of those, we weren't completely prepared for some of it. What makes it more confusing, and I posted this photo, was in their own design video, there looks to be a Surface laptop that had two USB Type-Cs and a Type A port at some point, which to me, when I'm like, that is what I would want. You still get everything, you get your legacy, but you have a little bit more future-proofing there. Because if you're selling this thing as the only laptop you need for 4 years, in 4 years, Type-C, I think, will be a bigger deal. And it's not end-of-world stuff, but I would have liked USB-A and Type-C. Now, someone brought this up as speculation. There's zero evidence to back it up, but what if there's another Surface laptop out there, like a Laptop Pro? I'm just saying, imagine if they made a 15-inch one.
Right. I mean, it's entirely possible. Entirely possible.
Right. I mean, Surface Laptop Pro, and now it's got a couple more ports on there, larger display. Maybe they made a quad-core. I'm just saying, there's zero evidence. I'm not hinting here. I'm not wink, wink. I honestly don't know. I'm just saying that'd be kind of cool.
If maybe Microsoft were to do something like that, that would basically be... I know the Surface Laptop itself is kind of Microsoft saying this, but if they were to go all out and say, here's a proper, actual, hardcore laptop, that'd be them telling their partners that, hey, we're in this with you guys now. We're competing head-to-head. No longer are we trying to show you the way. We are fighting you. And I don't think that's the right message Microsoft needs to send right now.
And that's the other thing I found weird about this, which was this bucks some of the stuff that the Surface team has been promoting over these last few years. Ever since the Surface Pro came out, it was all laptops are old. This is the new thing, right? Because this is a tablet. It's a keyboard. You can draw on it. It's so much. And people at first were come on. And then it was Surface Pro 3 came out, and all of a sudden now it's oh wait, everybody kind of wants this thing. And this is now the fastest growing market. In fact, it was last week at the Acer event. They showed their laptops, and they showed how it was 18% year over year improvement for our gaming laptops. And, okay, that's pretty good. It's positive. Then they showed their 2-in-1, their Swift, and it was 121% growth year over year. There's no doubt this category is huge for 2-in-1s, right? And you figure if you're targeting college kids, that is kind of their device. It fits on a desk very easily. You can fold a keyboard around. It just seems like that kind of device. Now, this laptop, we talked about this. Like, if this laptop, if the screen rotated around to the back, like an X360 kind of device, that makes sense. Like, okay, that's still Surface. Now I can use it as a tablet. I can use the pen on there. Go back to the video, watch Panos Panay, hold the display as he's writing on it. To be honest, that's kind of how I would use this device anyway. I kind of get that part of the sale. I don't really use the pen, but I like having that option. Once in a while, there's a squiggle on the screen or something like that. I'm just saying, that's not the way they've sold Surface stuff before in the past, right? That's a compromise to me. And that seems like something they wouldn't have done. So that's what this whole device just feels kind of strange.
Also, worth noting that Mike Ybarra from the Xbox team's in the chat, and he's asking you, Dan, he can't hear us, but thumbs up or down on the Surface laptop. So just thumbs up, I guess.
Yeah, thumbs up. No, I mean, I want one, and I'll be using it right now. And I'll be actually writing an article about this week where I'll talk about the EliteBook by HP's X360 is kind of my go-to device right now. And I'll talk about the reasons why for that. But there's always this question of things you want, like you love to have. Like, everybody wants, I know someone's mentioning about having dual 1080 Ti's, like, there's things you want in a laptop, but then there's things you need. And for my job, honestly, I do not need, like, the XPS 15 is such an awesome device. Do I need a quad-core device with a 1060 graphics card? No, or 1050. Not really. It's nice to have. I'm glad I can play Gears of War wherever I need to. But I rarely do, right? For my actual job, I honestly can get by with like a single port. So that's true for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really excited for the Surface laptop. Their Microsoft claims of 14 hours of battery life is amazing. Although hardware makers are known for being very sort of optimistic about their potential battery life scenarios, and it's usually not as good as they say. So even if they're saying 14 hours, I'm going to guess it's like 10 hours, maybe?
Yeah, probably. So, I mean, let's talk about that just for a sec. I mean, in fairness to these companies, the issue is Intel processors are so good at what's called stepping now, and speed shift, that they rapidly adjust. So they can hit turbo when they need to, like say when you're instantly launching an application, but as soon as it's launched, it can go back down to its baseline. And it's so good at doing that it makes measuring battery life really hard because it totally depends on its task relevance. If you're going to be running, say, games all the time on a thing or video editing, like it's going to use the processor differently. Even like the new Intels are very streamlined for, say, 4K video streaming. So if you're watching a Netflix or something like that, you actually get very good battery life. And that's how a lot of these tests are done. They're done with a video loop test, not streaming over a network, so it's localized. And the reason they do that is because it's repeatable. Anyone could go through and repeat it. It serves as a baseline. But it's a little bit deceptive because it's not quote-unquote real world, but real world varies so much that it's really hard to put a number on it. There's no like formal test. Because if you go like, well, in our test, we browsed for 2 hours, we played pinball for 3, you'd be like, wait, I don't play pinball, so how's that relevant? So it gets very difficult. But at 14 hours, they're saying that for a video loop test. I would say, yeah, that's probably at least between 8 and 10 hours of real world usage. For most people, it should be like that, which is all day.
A lot of people are saying as well that Microsoft went out and made the MacBook that people wanted, which I agree entirely. That's one of the demographics I feel like they were trying to target when they were building the Surface laptop. The Surface Book and the Surface Pro weren't really MacBook competitors, although Microsoft was very often comparing them to the MacBook Air and whatever else, but they aren't really. This laptop, the Surface laptop, is almost definitely a direct competitor of the MacBook Air and, the MacBook on its own, the new MacBook. So I really do. I'm really excited for the Surface laptop. I will definitely be getting one. I'll probably be getting like the one of the Core i7 ones. I got a Core i5 Surface Book. I regret it very much, so I'm not going to make that same mistake with the Surface laptop.
I will say that the Kaby Lake Core i5s are really nice, though. They're again comes down to what you would love to have and what you actually use. I for my job, I could actually be fine on a Core i5 and 8 gigs.
Honest to God, so could I. But I don't know if it's just me or not, but my Core i5 Surface Book has issues loading TweetDeck. TweetDeck is so slow on my Core i5 Surface Book.
Well, so I mean, you can also talk about Slack, which
Yeah.
is
Well, Slack's not as bad, but
Yeah,
TweetDeck's
Slack's an
awful.
Electron app, and Electron is basically, I think, sophisticated JavaScript. So there's these weird kind of things. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Ideal world, we'd all be running desktop class Core i7s, on a laptop. But Windows is getting there, right? Windows runs today better on low-end hardware, better than it ever has. It's really impressive. That's why when I review those Chewy laptops that cost like $300, I can say those things because the OS and the store apps are just they feel normal.
A lot of people as well are saying that the Surface laptop is too expensive. I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all.
This gets into that. Is a Porsche too expensive?
Right.
I mean, it may be too expensive for your budget. I get that. But these are listen. The quality is fantastic. I mean, the way the device feels in the hand, they nailed it.
Is it better feeling than the Surface Book? Because you've had both now.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, because the Surface Book is pretty thick. You mentioned about that.
Yeah.
You mentioned the hinge. It's a bulky device, right? Where this is a very streamlined device, and so it totally feels like that. And it's just this cool metal, and it's just, I don't know. It's very narrow, thin device. You open it one handed. It's very elegant, and so I don't think it's too expensive. There's also this other issue, which is Microsoft is not trying to outprice their competition. It's bad enough they made this. I can tell you some companies I've spoken to are not at all happy Microsoft made this thing. They actually do view it as sort of as an offense. If Microsoft want to even make it worse, they would undercut them in price too, right? Like I could tell you right now, like if you can't afford this, go buy I would say the HP Spectre X360, either the 13 or 15 is like just as good as an alternative to this. And you'd save money, probably a couple $100s, right? If I took that money argument out of the equation, that's now really bad for a company like HP. But HP could benefit from something like this, or even Dell with your XPS 13. So it's good that it's priced expensively, but it's an investment. You buy this and they have very high satisfaction ratings. You buy this and people are going to be pretty happy with it for a few years. That's sort of the idea behind it.
Yeah, I mean, Surface, Panos says this quite often on stage. People love their services. They don't like them or use them. They love them, and you pay for that love, I guess.
Yeah.
It is really nice. I don't think $999 for the low-end model. Again, I wouldn't recommend buying the 4 gigabyte version. Nothing is great at 4 gigabytes anymore. But if you really are on a budget and you really do need a Surface laptop, then the $999 version is I think is reasonable for technically less than $1,000. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for the Surface laptop.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why people buy MacBooks too, and I have no problem putting that money out because there's a huge difference in quality. It's one reason we're big on Razer products. And I know people are like, oh, they're quality control, but if you just go into the actual way the device feels and how nice it is, you can tell why they cost that much. And it's the same thing with Surface devices. When you pick it up, you're like, oh, there's no screws on this thing. Everything about it is really well done, and that's what you're paying for, and that's fine. If you can't afford it, they're not making these so every child can have one. That's not the point. Surface is meant to be this sort of dream device that you want to have, not that it's not meant to be the $500 Dell that anybody can have. Now that's fine.
Now the question is, what's coming next? Because a lot of us have been waiting for our Surface Pro 5 or the Surface Book 2, and it's been a while since we had a Surface Pro refresh or even a new version of the Surface Pro. So when can we expect that, Dan? Yeah,
no word. So let's get into this China thing. Yeah. So out of nowhere, I kind of maybe knew about it. On May 23rd, Microsoft is going to Shanghai to announce stuff. And they're going to, quote unquote, show the world what's next. And that tells you that this is not a China-only event, right? So there will be China-only news there, of course. There's something probably about them entering the market or making some big deals. China's obviously a huge market for them, so that's going to be good news. But Panos Panay, the head of their devices, the vice president of Microsoft Devices, will be there. I was, specifically told that, that should tell you something. This is going to be a Surface event, or there'll be some hardware announced there that the Surface team worked on. Now, what is that? Some people have said, oh, it's just going to be the localized version of, say, Surface Laptop, maybe. I don't think so. I think if they were to do that, they would just send out a press release. I don't see why they're going to be gathering some media for that event and make this a thing. Now, that's some of the good news. The bad news is it's not going to be live streamed. So that's unfortunate. At least what I was told.
More good news. We'll be there.
Yeah. So in theory, if my passport is renewed in time. So I sent my passport out a week ago to get a expedited review. But yes, as of now, Mark and myself will be attending this event in Shanghai, which would be a lot of fun. We just got to get our visas cleared and everything. But yes, we'll be covering it. As to what is going to be there, though, Surface Pro 5. Some people said a Surface Pro 5 revision, which wouldn't be as big of a deal. Like, they swap out, put Kaby Lake in there, and
right.
Put a little bow on it, call it a day. Now, I don't think that's true either, and I'll tell you why. There was a recent interview with Panos Panay on CNET, and he talked about this topic. And he's like, yeah, we don't just throw in a new processor and release the device. And he says he only wants to put out new devices when it's actually kind of game-changing, when there's something about it. Like, for instance, the Surface laptop. We talked about how it's weird. I think I got into the laptop thing. There's tons of laptops out there. But in fairness, what did they do? They made the world's thinnest touch display in a laptop. That's impressive. They did... the SSD is actually built into the motherboard. So if you don't know much about storage, that's your hard drive. Most of those are separate things. So there's physical hard disks that spin around. Those are old ones. Now there's SSDs, which are basically flash memory. And those are like sticks that go onto the board, and you need a little plug for it. They look like RAM almost. And that's typically how they're done. Sometimes they're even soldered on. This one is built into the board, and the idea behind that is it gives them really fast bandwidth, right? Because you're cutting out a lot of the piping. So they did a lot of first with this device too, and so there's a lot of like unique things about the Surface laptop. And so Surface Pro 5, I don't see any reason why they think it was just going to be like, oh, they put Kaby Lake in it, and it's a little bit faster and a little bit better. Here it is. The way he said it is that they only do stuff if it's going to be a big change.
See, at the same time, if this is a big thing, a big deal, not
why
live
China?
In China, but not live streaming the event would be slightly questionable. Because I see not live streaming the event as them saying, "Oh, we are going to announce some new things here," but they're not going to be live stream worthy, such as a Surface Pro 4 with Kaby Lake and it's a slightly maybe even USB-C. Although I don't think the next Surface Pro will have USB-C either. Regardless. From what I was expecting a Surface Pro 4 with, updated internals, which would be nice. Mixed reality stuff, probably. Because I know Microsoft talks about... Did they talk about mixed reality when they was last time in China in December? I know They talked about Windows on ARM. They might also talk about Cortana devices, Cortana connected devices, because I believe that might be a talking point at Build as well. And it would make sense to announce hardware for that later, the week after. So
I think that's probably more likely. So yeah, I'm not expecting... as much as I would love to have a Surface Pro 5 KB refresh. And here's another reason why. Surface Pro 4, for as awesome as it is, was basically a Surface Pro 3 refresh, right? If you talk to anyone who owns a Surface Pro 3, a lot of them are like, I haven't seen a reason to upgrade to Pro 4. And they're not entirely wrong, right? There's some cool advances to the Pro 4. I don't want to undersell it, but it was a refinement of a really nice design. And that design now is a couple of years old. And were they just to put a new processor in there, and that may be the other twist. I don't know. I mean, I guess they could just put a new processor in there and call it Surface Pro 4 and just call it Surface Pro 4. They did do that once, right? They did upgrade a processor line. I think it was in Surface Pro 2 midstream. And they didn't tell anyone. They literally just showed up in the stores.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that could happen. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. But it doesn't feel like this is going to be a Surface Pro event because of the reasons you cited. So I honestly do not know. I say mixed reality and Cortana devices are sort of the things I would expect. But to me, that seems a little bit more realistic.
So why is Panos there? Maybe Cortana Surface device. That'd be nice. A Surface Alexa, whatever you want to call it. That'd be very interesting. Maybe a Surface Watch. Let's just go into speculation territory. Surface phone confirmed.
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm not.
Oh, my Alexa heard me.
Yeah, so I mean, there could be stuff like that. And then I get into, okay, so when do we get a Surface Pro 5, Surface Book 2? And presumably Surface on ARM. So I've been saying this for a while that I think Surface 4 or Surface 5, whatever the non-Pro Surface is, that's going to replace Surface 3, will be their ARM device that runs the Snapdragon 835 or whatever is available. Because we talked about this before. That's another like big change with them. They did it with Windows 10s. They're like, okay, we need a awesome device for Windows 10s to show that we believe in this product. Here's Surface Laptop. They're going to announce Windows 10 on ARM being available. They're going to have like a device. They're going to be like, and we think this is so good. We're using it ourselves. Here is the new Surface 4 or Surface 5 by that time. That makes total sense for them to do that, you know, and it'd be super thin, get great battery life, it'll have cellular, all the stuff that we with Surface 3, right? I expect that. As far as Surface Book 2 and Surface Pro 5, you know, maybe not to the fall. I don't know, but who knows? I said this endlessly. They release stuff when it's ready, and that's...
See, here's how I'm thinking. This is just, you know, guessing pretty much. Surface Pro 5 or Surface Pro 4 Kaby Lake refresh, whatever they call it, will be at the Shanghai event, along with whatever else they want to announce, mixed reality, blah, blah, blah. Then in the fall, we'll have Surface Book 2 and the Surface 4 or Surface 5 ARM-based device. So Microsoft can then sort of separate their 4 devices refreshes into 2 different events a year. They can have the Surface Laptop and the Surface Pro at an event next year, or in 2018, 2019. Then they can have another event in the same year where they can do Surface ARM, Surface
But see,
Book.
that gets into that whole, like, we're assuming that they have, like, a TikTok schedule.
Well, right, it would be maybe tick and then half tick, or, you know, 3/4
I see from the Surface team is just, like...
Whenever. I know, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, now it's ready. Let's have an event, you know? Like I said, that Surface Laptop was 2 years in the making. I mean, that's a long time to be working on a single product.
But every year for a long time now, Microsoft have had some kind of event in September, October time. They have, right. Or even November. So
yeah,
there's always a fall event, and they've got to have something there every year, whether it be a Surface or a new version of Windows 10 or whatever else. They've got to have something to talk about.
Definitely Surface Book 2 by that point.
And definitely, I think definitely ARM. I think it's fair to say that we'll see a Surface ARM device at that, because that by Redstone 3, which is supposed to be done by September, Windows 10 on ARM will be ready. It's supposed to be finalized with Redstone 3. And then it makes sense in October, Microsoft comes out with a Surface 5 or 4 with ARM running Windows 10 ARM.
Or maybe they still work on the Windows Hub, Home Hub stuff.
That would be nice.
I would not be surprised if they did a Surface Home thing at some point.
A Surface Studio, but cheaper and makes more sense for the home. That'd be nice.
Oh, people are complaining my audio is out of sync. I'm just going to blame the UK and distance for that.
It's Skype's fault. Just ignore it. I can't fix it. Trust me.
We'll fix it in post. Don't worry. When this goes live, you'll see the video synced up. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on, and the Surface Laptop, I think, like I said, throws a wrench in the whole prediction thing, because now they're up for apparently creating devices in any category. So I think, and that's good, right? I mean, like I said, that's good for the mobile play. Now, let's talk briefly about mobile phone stuff. Satya Nadella was on record this week saying that, we will get back to the phone thing, but when it comes back, it might not look like a phone, right? This is exactly what I've been saying since late 2015. Go back and read the article called Does Microsoft Want to Reboot the Concept of a Phone? I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but I've been saying this for a long time, that they're going to create a mobile device that is beyond what a smartphone is today. Now, we could all argue we want that yesterday, and I get that. Here's the thing. They could release a Surface phone tomorrow, and it would still have the issue. There's no apps on there, and I've heard things. I heard they had the opportunity to make a phone, and they didn't. And I think the reason is when these guys, and by these guys I mean the Surface team, the ladies too, the engineers, when they create a device, you see the passion on stage. They believe in these products. They're like, this is the best thing ever. Like, you're not going to find a better laptop than this. Like, they believe that. And I think they don't want to create a phone until they can actually get on stage and say that. And there's a lot of other parts in there. Like, they don't want to just create like another Windows 10 mobile device with a nice camera. We've seen that for the last 4 or 5 years from Nokia, who nailed so many devices doing that, right? I think they really want to come on stage and be like, this is something you haven't seen before. It's not just a nice display. And the funny thing is I made this argument to Microsoft behind closed doors. I'm like, you guys should have just released a high-end device, made it internally. You don't need to put Surface on it. Just call it Microsoft Windows Phone. You just sell it through your stores and Amazon, and like just have it out there. And then save the Surface thing for later on. But I don't know why they didn't do that. But at least I still think that team is going to be working on something. So.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Satya said it specifically. He says, "I'm sure we'll make phones." So it doesn't sound like it's a thing coming soon. I think the phone play is now for the future and not near future, quite far future. So maybe 2018, possibly 2019. Right. I wouldn't expect anything this year. I know many people are holding out for a Surface phone every single time Microsoft holds an event. No,
I know.
No phone
Although now
this
people
year.
are starting to get jaded enough where they're finally starting to doubt it. But we're not expecting anything this year. I love to be proven wrong on that. I'm not saying that as like I've seen their internal records, like what they have planned. I'm just, my guess is that won't happen. But they're not saying, but they are saying that they will come back into it just with a really kind of crazy device. And that should, go get an Android phone for now. I still recommend, along with Zach, the OnePlus 3T is this bargain Android device. That's really, really nice. And then wait for Microsoft to try to woo you back, right? Just because they release something doesn't mean you have to like give up your Android phone. If you're happy, fine. It's up to Microsoft to be. I think this is the test, right? They have to be able to tell you, go out and buy your Android or iPhone right now. Go get it. We're sorry. Phone is not a thing right now for us. But in like a year or two, we're going to create a device, and it's our job and responsibility to convince you to give that thing up. Now, most people right now are like, come on, that's impossible. And I kind of agree, except for that is their job, right? That is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to create technology that's supposed to be like, that is so good, I need to have that. And if you look at how much they're getting their butts kicked in the premium end when PCs a few years ago compared to where things are now, and I always say this, Microsoft always benefits from, at some point, their competition screws up. Internet Explorer got huge, not because it was just awesome. It was also because the Netscape screwed up along the way, right? And these companies trip on themselves. And that's what's happening right now. Microsoft is creating awesome hardware, and then Apple is not creating awesome hardware. And there's that opportunity. So there's a lot in play here, I would say. And you're starting to see iPhone dwindle, right? It's less exciting. It's less killer every year. So.
Yeah, no, entirely. Microsoft have now, I said this on Twitter the other day, Microsoft have now made the iMac people wanted. Microsoft have now made the Surface, the MacBook people wanted. Next, it's time for Microsoft to make the iPhone people want.
Yeah, right.
It makes sense.
What's really neat too and inspiring is every time they release a Surface product and you feel the hardware and the quality and everything, you're like, okay, these guys want to make a phone device mobile thing. They could do it, right? Yeah. There's little doubt that they're going to create something and you're just going to make, oh, it's just another phone. Like, there's something about it that's going to be pretty amazing.
It's definitely not the hardware they're waiting on in regards to a Surface phone. It's the software. The software, Windows 10 Mobile
there's that. We don't know. If they're relying on, like, say, foldable screen technology or something.
Right, that's true.
Or more advanced ARM processors to run full Windows. Yeah, that is waiting on technology too,
Should we move on to our final story? Well, sort of conversation.
I guess. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Build is next week. We're recording this on Friday, so when this goes up on the Monday the 8th, this will be the week of Build. So we're going to just quickly run through some expectations and what we're hoping to see at Build, and then we'll do another podcast this week, or if you're listening live next week, where we talk about things that were announced at Build, because we'll probably record it on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what day is the best day for Microsoft announcements. But yeah, so here's what we're hoping to see at Build. I am personally hoping for Project Neon. Obviously, Microsoft will finally detail everything they've got planned for Project Neon and their new Microsoft design language, which we unveiled back in December 2016. So it's been known for quite a while now. And if you've been reading Windows Central this week, you would have seen a bunch of in-house apps have been updated with Neon support now. Well, Neon designs and whatever else. And this is following along what we did report. We did hear and report that back in December that Microsoft would start updating apps with Redstone 2 with Neon stuff, and then with Redstone 3 and Redstone 4, we'd see it hit the system elements such as the taskbar, start menu, action center, you name it. And that's what we're seeing now. And at Build, Microsoft should talk about that and how developers can make beautiful, rich apps. Possibly more bot stuff. Microsoft are really big on bots, and it only seems like they're interested in it once a year, and it's at Build. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Microsoft talk more about bots at Build this year. Hopefully, and this is kind of jumping off what Dan said the other day, hopefully Microsoft talk about their plan for the Universal Windows platform. This is a big one, because if Microsoft doesn't have a mobile play, which they kind of don't right now, they need to tell developers what UWP is for and how it benefits them, and outline their sort of schedule and their plan for this year and next year for the Windows Store and app development with UWP. That's a big, important one, I think.
Yeah. Mixed reality for me. Mixed reality is going to be huge. I think you're going to see a lot of talk about that, as you all may or may not know. In your Windows 10 Creators Update, if you have it on your PC already, there is the Windows Mixed Reality section, and so your PC should be able to handle this and is ready for it. What you don't have are the headsets, and what we don't have are a lot of apps. And what you're going to see over this next 6 months, as I mentioned, these devices really won't come out until the holiday season. And meanwhile, developers can actually get the headsets now if they want, and we're going to spend 6 months creating some neat experiences. Now, any app that runs in the Windows Store can run on mixed reality, which is pretty awesome. So technically it's there, but that's just a slapstick thing, right? Just because you can run Skype in mixed reality, which is actually really cool. Using things like Unity allows you to create 3D immersive experiences, and they want those on the store too. And that's what I think you're going to start to see a big push on, is Unity development along with UWP, and how that's going to work for mixed reality as well as the sell there. I think that you're going to see a big push, so that for this holiday season, you're going to buy a headset and you can be like, instead of being, like, what do I do with this? You can be like, ooh, I can't wait to try this cool game or application. So one thing we haven't heard about is any sort of like big news, and that's what I'm kind of expecting. Now, there's been some speculation. I've been talking to some people, and I don't want to build up hopes, but I've heard that there's going to be a big announcement for a third party whose apps are going to come to the store.
Any idea who that could be?
I would like to think it's Google.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting. Like YouTube, Gmail, apps like that.
Maybe Chrome, the Chrome browser would be a huge win. Now, a lot of you are asking, like, why would, Google do that? Well, for one, Microsoft's been very good recently at settling old scores with companies and putting, bearing the hatchet, so to speak. Samsung now is a great partner with them. They're selling Samsung phones, right? So long as they're starting to abandon these sort of patent and turf wars and the courts, there are deals to be made. Now, for all those saying, why would Google do this? They hate Windows. Well, no, last I checked, the Chrome browser runs in Windows. It's a Windows 32 application. There are Google is big on the PC. They can't just continue to ignore it. And there will be a point where Windows 10 and UWP becomes, in theory, big enough that they can't ignore it, because then they're going to start locking themselves out. Don't forget, every time you get a Windows PC, the first thing you see is Edge, right? What do you think is going to happen with schools pretty soon with Windows 10s? The same thing. They're going to just be locked to Edge. So they're going to start to potentially lose this audience, and they're going to have to bite the bullet. I'm not saying they're going to enjoy it, but at some point, they may have to just bite the bullet and go all right, we're going to put our apps in that store. Now, I don't have anything solid on this. I don't have a document that says, this is what's happening. But I have heard some rumblings about this. And wouldn't it surprise me? But I don't know. We'll have to see. There has to be some sort of big announcement, I would imagine.
Maybe the big announcement is Surface Phone. No, I'm joking.
No, come on. Don't do that. And that's the other thing we should talk about. I mean, this is not really a consumer focused event. This is really dev stuff. There will be some things as our audience and some consumers will be interested in, but do not expect new hardware. They never announce new hardware at these events. So
that's why they had an event a week before it, because they really don't want to announce hardware at Build.
And apparently one
straight after it.
Later. Yeah.
It's almost as if Build is an inconvenience to Microsoft right now. But I mean, the other thing that we're obviously hoping for, which probably won't happen, is Microsoft to talk about Windows 10 Mobile on stage or off stage. I don't really care at this point. As if they want to talk about it in a private session, that which does happen at Build. There are some sessions that are sometimes streamed, sometimes not streamed for developers. Where I think last year a lot of the Continuum stuff, that the Seashell Continuum stuff Microsoft demoed, was in a private session that was put on Channel 9, I think. So you can actually go and watch it still. But yeah, I would definitely love to see Microsoft on stage or off stage, just talk about Windows 10 Mobile or their plan for it or lack of plan for it, whatever. Just mention it and just tell us what's going on.
Yeah, as long as they mention it a few times, I think that would be enough for us. Like, they acknowledge it's still alive.
Yeah, acknowledging is different. I mean, I want them to mention it and actually talk about what they're doing with it.
Sure.
I don't want them to just say, oh, yeah, this is an app that we're building that's going to come to Windows 10 PCs and phone. I don't want to hear that. That's rubbish. I want them to say phone. By the way, about phone, this and that. We're doing this, and this isn't happening, and this is happening. That would be what I want to hear, but who knows at this point?
Someone mentioned about maybe Microsoft buying Unity, who's one of the game engines. I don't know the logistics of that. It wouldn't be bad. If you look at a lot of the HoloLens games, they're almost always written in Unity. And so it does seem to be the preferred 3D rendering engine for that platform, and it would kind of make sense. I do also expect, of course, Xamarin News. That's their cross-platform dev tool set. People love it. They've been doing a lot of good stuff with it. As far as reducing costs or giving it away for free and stuff. So yeah, definitely more advancements there. I've always mentioned Bridges, Project Centennial, Islandwood. Right now people see them as one-way things. One way, you take an app from iOS and you bring it over to Windows, or you take a Win32 Classic desktop app, bring it to Windows. But Microsoft's always told me, and the analogy works, that Bridges work both ways. So I do expect at some point them to start talking about how UWP apps can be transferred to other platforms. Because what Microsoft wants is you as a developer to write, stuff in UWP, and you put it everywhere, whether it's their own platform or competing devices. That is the vision. They've never really gone into depth about that, and it'll be interesting to see if they start focusing on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I do like it's kind of cheeky, really, Microsoft's sort of idea here of, hey, developers, develop for us, because then it's just one code for everybody. But you have to publish on our store, by the way, otherwise you can't use it. That's nice. That's a nice idea, because then it takes away from Apple and Google in the sense that, the developers are now targeting Microsoft's platform because it's easier for them to port to everyone rather than develop one for iOS, develop one for Android, and then develop one for Windows. Now it's just one for eventually it'll be one for all of them, and that's based on Microsoft's work, not Apple's or Google's, which I think is pretty interesting.
Someone also mentions Xbox Scorpio news. Absolutely not. No. Forget about Xbox news. The only terms you'll hear Xbox is in regards to UWP and porting apps and games to it. Now, there will be that. They did do some stuff last year on games in that regard. Scorpio is E3. That's when you'll hear announcements on name and potentially pricing and availability, as well as the demos of some games and announcement of new titles. But that's a month later in Los Angeles. So
I do wonder if they've got everything settled by now for Scorpio, name, price, everything, and they're just waiting.
I'm sure it's getting pretty close.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's everything. That's our biggest expectations for Build. I mean, hopefully, I do like being surprised. I hope there's a big surprise or a big announcement, as always. There usually is. I can't remember them, though.
And finally, I was going to say, finally, we should mention that things have changed up a little bit. I've done Build now for 5 years, I think. So this year, Satya Nadella, CEO, will be on day one, along with Scott Guthrie, who's their cloud Azure guy, I want to say. The reason I say that jokingly is because he's usually on day two, and I usually skip day two because I usually do a lot of live coding, and I just cannot live blog that and nod off. Instead, Terry Myerson, who's usually on day one, is now on day two. So either they realized a lot of people were skipping day two because it was actually just kind of more boring, and they're spacing out a little bit. I don't know. They changed it up a little bit. So I guess that also means that Zach and I need to live blog day two as well. So if you don't hear all the huge news on day one, don't tune out, because there'll probably definitely be more Windows 10 stuff on day two than day one.
My question is Joe Belfiore going to be on stage? Because I thought he was going to be on stage at the May 2nd event, and he wasn't.
I bet he thought that too.
Yeah. And I was so gutted. I was so excited to see Joe back, doing demos, just how it used to be.
Yeah.
He wasn't there.
He was there in New York.
Right.
Sometimes things get cut. who knows? Don't forget, Joe is back. That means that Joe hadn't been working on this stuff for the last year and a half, where those people may want to take extra credit for the work they did. He's a very good presenter, though, and maybe he'll just pop up on stage. We'll see.
I do. I wanted to come up, talk about Neon, show every developer how Neon looks and how it makes your apps awesome.
Yeah, I was on a boat for a year, but here's the thing that these other guys have been working.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been back for long enough to sort of have some kind of say in Neon.
I'm sure he's been briefed on it.
Yeah. When did he arrive? He arrived last year,
I
right?
don't think he formally started back until a few months ago.
Wow, that's enough time to get familiar with Neon and Windows Phone.
Who knows how that stuff works. But there you go. Tune in next week. We'll be traveling this weekend through Monday to arrive there and expect some on-the-ground stuff. And if you work at Microsoft and you want to hang out with us, hit us up on Twitter. You can follow me at Daniel_Rubino. That's Rubino. You can follow Zach at ZACBOWDEN. Let us know. We are planning on hitting the campus. Maybe I heard there's a bar on campus at the cafeteria area. We may hang out there, and we'll let you buy us drinks, or we'll buy you drinks. one of those. You can get us drunk, and then we can have a good time and meet up. Otherwise, pay attention to our coverage all week for Build, and thanks for tuning in. Now we're going to do some Q&A. Don't forget, also probably this Thursday, we probably won't be doing the Microsoft Gaming Libation stuff because we'll be unavailable, but we'll be back the next Thursday for that. There you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.